if you want to begin implementing this idea of newsjacking, you should.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Jolly SEO's TLDR. And this week, I am grateful we have David Meerman Scott, newsjacking.com. You can check him out, or David Meerman Scott. Uh, David, you have an amazing background. You've not only been a model, a theater actor, but you have this incredible history going from Japan to PR to pretty much when the internet was in its infancy, figuring out how to attract people through newsjacking. And so today I'm on the tail end of it all. We do earned media outreach for SEO.
Yep.
All finally heard this term newsjacking in the last couple of years, which you coined since before I worked in SEO. So thank you for taking the time to explain what it is. And I'd love
Sure.
to dive into it.
Sure. And newsjacking is just one of the things I do. I've written 13 books. Newsjacking is one of them. I started my career in a bond trading desk. I got really deep into how information works back in the early 2000s, and started writing and speaking about how information is a great way to generate attention for all kinds of businesses. When I started my own business back in 2002, so I've been going strong now for well more than 20 years. And when the web went real time about 15 years ago, a little bit more than 15 years ago, the web went real time. Prior to that, if you updated a website, it took weeks or months for Google and the other search engines to index the website and be able to surface the change you made to the website. But Google went real time about 15 years or so ago, and that allowed for what I call newsjacking, which I'll talk about in a second. The other thing that happened is the real-time social networks got started around that same time, especially Twitter. And so these were ways that you could generate attention by creating real-time instant content. So I have pioneered this idea of newsjacking. Newsjacking is the art and science of injecting your ideas into a breaking news story. So what that means in practice is all of us who are trying to generate attention through search engine optimization, through our websites, through social media, every one of us has some expertise. We're experts in some aspect of business or of life or whatever it might be. In your case, you're an expert in search engine optimization and SEO. In my case, I look at myself as an expert in how to generate fans of a business, how to generate attention without spending any money. When there's a breaking news story happening right now, the media, meaning reporters and editors, are looking for experts to quote. And if it's something that potentially could be purchased, people are looking for a company to provide those ideas, those products and services to be sold. So let me give you an example of that. Imagine that there's a new cybersecurity attack going on, and that cyber attack has a name. Like, for example, a couple of years ago, there was one called the WannaCry ransom attacks. Now, if you're an expert in cybersecurity, or you're an expert in understanding that particular ransom attack, bang, you have an opportunity right now to create instant content on your website in the form of a webinar, perhaps, a blog post. It could be a YouTube video. It could be sharing on social media. If there's a recognized hashtag for that particular ransomware attack, you should use that hashtag. Put that information out right now, and then that might generate attention because people are like, oh my gosh, there's this new ransom attack. What the heck do I do? How do I protect myself? And your content is out there. And this is true of any kind of business. We put that content out instantly. It gets indexed in the search engines because the search engines are real time, as we just talked about. You push that out on social networks. If there's a recognized hashtag, you push that out. And maybe the media, magazine, radio, television, newspaper reporters will reach out to you to quote you in the stories as they're beginning to write them. Or let's say you provide cybersecurity software. Bingo! People are looking to subscribe to your services to protect themselves from this new attack. So that's the way it works. That's what newsjacking is. It needs speed. You need to do it quickly.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to get right back to it. Real quick, if you're not sure how you're showing up in AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and the like, click on that first link in the description. If you fill that out for us, we'll send you your own AI visibility report and see how we can help you boost your results. All right, without further ado, remember that link and enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, thinking about speed, a lot of our clients, for example, are very concerned with the accuracy of the statements that we put out. And
Yep.
obviously, they have in-house subject matter experts to lean on. But if we're trying to be fast, how concerned are we with an evolving situation, not knowing the total picture and making a statement that may later be revealed to have not aligned with reality?
Well, it is really important if you're going to use this technique called newsjacking. And by the way, the technique has become super popular around the world. I pioneered it maybe 15 years ago. It's now listed in the Oxford English Dictionary, and my name is attached to it, which is super cool. There's hundreds of thousands of hits on the search engines about newsjacking. So it is mainstream now, but it does require speed because the reporters and editors are looking for an expert now, not 2 hours from now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. So it's very important to get that information out there when the moment is right. So what I recommend that people do is to get pre-approval to be able to do an instant blog post or an instant social media post, or do an instant video or whatever it might be as your technique to get those ideas into the marketplace. So what that means in a practical sense is if you want to begin implementing this idea of newsjacking, you should call a meeting that would include whoever the right constituents are. Maybe if it's a smaller company, maybe it even includes the CEO. If it's a larger company, your department head or whatever it is. But maybe you need to bring in people from the legal side. Maybe you need to bring in people from the public relations side. Maybe you need to bring in marketers. It depends on your organization. But bring the right people into a room or a virtual room and discuss this idea of newsjacking and how the idea is that if you get your information out there quickly, you can generate attention right now, and it can be mind-blowingly popular as a way to generate attention in such a way that that you could have 100 new clients tomorrow because people are looking for somebody that has what you offer. So get that pre-approval now, or if your company is unwilling to give a blanket pre-approval, have a list of 2 or 3 people that you can reach day or night to get an approval in real time. Because you never know when a news story is going to break. It could be breaking right now. It could be breaking at midnight. It could be breaking on a Sunday. It could be breaking on a holiday. It could be breaking on New Year's Eve. You just never know when that story's going to happen. And if you wait till people are back in their comfortable office, it's probably too late.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking about the art and the science, going a little deeper into the science and the timing. Organically, we're plugged into our niche. We're consuming media and we're generally aware, but what are some monitoring systems that you've developed over the years that someone could construct on our end to really stay tuned in to what's happening in the moment?
So it's interesting because you never really know what a potential story is going to be that you can comment on that might generate attention. So what I always recommend is that you set up a couple of different ways to monitor the news. One way is, as you just described it, set up very specific keywords for the kinds of things that you're an expert in. And so again, going back to this example I shared, if you're an expert in cybersecurity and ransomware attacks and how to protect people from ransomware attacks, you probably want to have search strings set up that you're monitoring on a real-time basis. Things like ransomware attacks and probably dozens or even hundreds of other keywords. However, there are opportunities when a news story pops up that you never saw coming, that you never expected would happen. So I also recommend, besides setting up all of those keyword searches that can alert you in real time, also to look at a general news service. So I like Google News, but there's other services that you can use without having any personalization attached to it. Because what you're looking for are general stories that you might be able to attach yourself to. So I'll give you an example of that. A couple of years ago, I was just scrolling through Google News. I don't remember if it was on my computer or on my mobile phone, but I have Google News set up on both places. And it doesn't need to be Google News, but a good news source that looks at different types of news outlets. And I noticed that Donald Trump reinstated his Twitter account and did his first tweet after having been kicked off Twitter several years earlier because he was violating Twitter's terms of service. Oh my gosh, Donald Trump just tweeted again for the first time in something like 3 years. That's interesting. That's not something I ever would have guessed or I ever would have had a search result set up for on a news service. I never would have had a Google News alert set up for Donald Trump finally doing a tweet again. But so when he did tweet for the first time in years, because he was reinstated onto Twitter, that was interesting, and that was interesting news. So I saw it happen on my Google News search. Not search, but my Google News, just looking through the headlines of what was going on that day. And I immediately did a blog post about it. Like right then, I dropped everything and did a blog post about it. Push the button, push the blog post out. And within about 20 minutes, I got an email from the BBC. And the BBC wanted to interview me live on television right away, and asked me if we could set up a Zoom right then. I mean, that was like instant, right then, to talk about Donald Trump now getting reinstated in Twitter. And because I've written a number of books about social media and about real-time marketing and about newsjacking and about other things, they decided I was a good person to interview for the story. So I said, sure, I'm happy to do that. I have this great home studio here in my house. I have a vacation house where I also have a home studio where I happened to be at the time. So I did a live hookup with BBC, got on BBC News all over the world with this little story about Donald Trump getting back onto Twitter. But it was because I was fast. And in this case, it was a story I never saw coming. Never saw coming.
Right.
And that's the idea of how this can work.
That's amazing. I want to also talk about the art, but we only have a few more minutes together. So we specialize in ghostwriting here. We do the outreach for our clients, a
Yep.
little even beyond maybe what a PR agency would do, where we try to make it fully hands off. Just curious, your take. Everyone philosophically or ethically has a different take on ghostwriting. Where do you stand in terms of, we want to do it fast, so we make it hands off for our clients? How do you feel about that?
I think that if content is created and it has tremendous value, and it's accurate and it reflects the brand of the company that's pushing it out, I think that having help to create that content is valid. Whether that's a human, like in your case, ghostwriting something, or the use of artificial intelligence to do a first draft of something. But I do think it's also very important that the organization is aware of how this content is being created and that it has true value. And it's not just AI slop that's being thrown out there. There's way too much junk out there. So putting out more junk is not going to be helpful. In fact, can be very harmful to a brand. So I'm fine with having the writing outsourced. I don't see an issue with having the writing itself outsourced. But I do think it's very, very important that the organization that does that outsourcing, either to humans or machines, makes absolutely sure that what's being created is of value. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's really important to get that content out quickly. And I also recommended having a meeting with the right constituents in the room or the virtual room to talk about that. So perhaps what that means is that in your case, if your firm is helping a company or another person listening in on there is also being able to help someone, that you're included in that meeting. And then maybe they can sign off, the company or your client can sign off and say, sure, I'm happy to have you ghostwrite, put something out there, as long as you understand our brand and our guidelines and our voice and whatnot. It is okay for you to do that in real time when the moment's right, because we're able to do the newsjacking of a story. I have one more comment on this idea of newsjacking. We've got a couple more minutes if you have a couple more questions.
Well, my favorite question is always, what did I not ask? Whenever I meet someone like you with a wealth of expertise, I don't assume I've got the best questions. So I'd love to close out with a comment on newsjacking, please.
Sure. So the question that you could have asked is, okay, so now search engine optimization is being disrupted because of the AI search engines. Whether it's Perplexity or the new ways that you can find things through ChatGPT or Google, whatever, they're pulling up, often pulling up artificial intelligence generated results. Well, here's what's really cool about newsjacking is because when a news story breaks and people are doing a search on it, the AI engines don't have the history to go back on because it's a brand new story. So if you're getting your stuff out there right now and it's being found on your website or it's being found because you just got quoted in the media on a brand new breaking news story, you can get tons of attention through those AI search engines. So this is a really cool technique, newsjacking, to get found in the new AI-focused search engines.
It's awesome. David, thank you so much for your time today. Again, you can look for you, davidmeermanscott.com, jacking.com. Anywhere else you want people to look for you?
On social media, I'm easy to be found because, and you would appreciate this because you're an SEO guy. My full name, David Meerman Scott. I'm the only one in the world. There are thousands of David Scotts, so that's why I use my middle name, David Meerman Scott. Google me, you'll find me.
Personal branding expert. That is awesome. Thank you so much for your time, David.
My pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having me on.